class. I guess I won't be able to move the camera very much. Hello.
Hello.
All right. Well, thanks for coming to the class. So my name is Patrick Bulis. I will be teaching this course for the next 8 weeks. It'll be on relief printing. I'm the technician at the printmaking studio at the university. I'm also a social instructor, so I teach mostly in the summer, sometimes in the fall. And I'm also a practicing artist and a printmaker. So I usually work with relief printing, and I do etching, intaglio, and mezzotint. So maybe later on I can show you some of my work as well.
Great.
Yeah.
What was the second last word you said?
Mezzotint?
No.
Intaglio. Intaglio.
Okay.
Which is
I've never heard of it. Okay.
We'll be talking about that too.
That's fine.
We'll start with relief printing though. So probably get started. We can introduce each other.
This is
Maybe-
Michelle.
Michelle?
I'm just kidding.
Maybe talk about what kind of art you do and why you decided to take this class.
Well, I tried some lino cuts many years ago, and we used the kind of spongier lino, that thicker
Oh, yeah.
stuff. It was like a one-day class, and I did really enjoy it. But it was ages ago.
Mhm.
And, like Jacob showed me some
Nice.
things as well. I work at Really Modern. This gal here. So yeah, quite interested in the process and looking for a new medium to get passionate about. I've done a lot of watercolors in my life, but
Okay.
I just had stopped painting for a while. So now I want to just get excited about something. So this could be it.
I'm Monica, and I'm a textile artist, and I work with this gal. I have a lot of the gear to do this. I've been collecting it for a while back now. I love when I see reels and things on Instagram when people peel it
process.
back, or even the carving. I'm just like, whoa, just it's just delicious. I
Do you
just
follow
love it.
Lino Cut Friends on Facebook?
Different people.
It's called Lino Cut Friends. It's a
Yeah.
huge group. So
No.
I'm constantly seeing it in my feed, all this nice process and
Just-
that's peeling back.
Yeah,
and
just individual, different people, and just based on the work they do that I like, and so, and I have a great uncle who I have some of his woodcuts. I just really love it, and when I see the different colors too, like the layers, I can't wait to learn that, and I've seen the puzzling, the different colors that are ink, different colors, and put back together before they put the paper on. So as a textile artist, I want to somehow someday in the future incorporate like stitch with printing. So maybe even, I don't know if I can do this onto canvas and then be stitching. I don't know if this is only for on paper. We'll see. But
Yeah.
I love I own some prints and I love them. I don't know. I have to figure out if I just am an admirer or if I will be a print artist.
Time will tell.
And I'm here because this is an 8-week class, not just a little
Yeah.
blurb. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a nice timeline.
It is, yeah.
I'm Jan. I'm an amateur. I did take a printmaking class through the university.
Okay. Who taught the class?
Roger Trotchet.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was an awesome class, but it was very detailed
Mm.
and a lot of stuff in one time.
Yep.
So I'm hoping this will be my forte.
I'm Deborah. I'm a photographer, and I'm also looking for something else to get my creative
Juices going.
yes, my creative yayas back, I
Yeah.
guess.
Sure.
And I'm fascinated by the process.
Mhm.
And I'm the same as you when you see that, and you're like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the first time you see a
Use your
black and white
Photos too. Like,
photo
Probably
come
never
up
gets
in
old.
chemistry. It's the
Every
same
year.
kind of deal. So,
No, it
yeah.
never does.
Always.
So
that
yeah, I'm
wow
excited about the
factor.
process and learning. And, yeah.
I'm Brianna. I paint. I've been painting for a while. and I have done some printmaking. I learned lino cut in high school, which was
Okay.
a while ago.
Mhm.
And a couple of years I did my own Christmas cards.
Nice.
But I don't know if I was using the right paper. Like they never turned out the way I really wanted them to. So I know a little bit, but I'm excited to learn.
Awesome. Well, welcome. So I'll start by showing some prints. I'll talk a little bit about the history of leaf printing and printmaking in general. Talk a bit about what we're doing in class, and then we'll get started. I think Jean at some point cut me off and said, "Let's make something." So if someone wants to be the Jean tonight, no, keep it personal. She
I
was nice
took a
about it.
drawing class from Jean.
Yeah, she said, "I like listen to you talk, Patrick, but it's time to make something."
You hear her voice.
Anyways, so relief printing. Probably bring some examples over there. It's a nice big one. So printmaking covers a whole lot of different techniques. So there's relief printing, there's silk screening, there's lithography, there's intaglio. Relief printing is a great place to start. It's the most, I won't say easiest, but the most straightforward. Basically, you have a surface that you cut into. Whatever you cut into doesn't ink up, and then you ink up or doesn't print. Then you ink up the surface, and then print up the surface. So it's like making a stamp, essentially. And it's probably one of the oldest, or if not the oldest, form of printmaking. So it's been around for quite some time. So we'll start off with the black and white. So with relief printing, pardon me, especially with black and white, you can't really create value or like shading. So you can't do like shading like you do with a pencil. So you have to create the illusion of changes in value by using pattern and the way you cut your block. You can see here, for example.
The longer I look it up, the more I can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Camera setup, and I run everything behind the camera, but you do a range of different patterns and cuts. And there's almost endless ways to approach it. Like it can be very abstract, very detailed. It could be very simple and elegant, or be packed full of detail. So even though it's like I said, a very straightforward medium, there's a lot you can do with it. So with printmaking, including relief printing, you're able to make multiples. So you make more than one the image, which is nice. Most printmaking mediums started off as a way to reproduce an image. So things like relief printing were used for book illustration, for example, or text for books. Everyone's familiar with the Gutenberg press. 15th century in Europe kind of changed the way information was spread across Europe. So rather than having monks hand paint or make copies of books, you're able to just use movable text, even though by today's standards it's really tedious, but you can put things together and print pages and pages and then send those pages out. So change the way we look at things and get information. So we're going to start off with black and white, and eventually we're going to move into color. So that's an example here.
So how many colors is that?
Or maybe 5. This color here, this yellow color, is actually a paper.
Oh, it is. Okay.
And we're going through just the 3 kind of main types of color printing. So reduction, multi-block, and puzzle piece. So this is reduction. With reduction, you have one block and you keep on cutting into the block, printing it, cutting it, and printing it over again. So you ever seen the lino cuts at the Remy, the Picasso lino cuts? He preferred this method.
The reduction?
The reduction, yeah. He started off with multiple block, but he found it too tedious. It's basically almost like repeating the image over and over again on different blocks. You have one block and you carve into it, ink it up, you print it. It's more intuitive. With reduction, if you do make a mistake though, you can't really go back because you just have that one block. Or if you have something with multiple blocks, we have the L here. So, it's out here.
So that's a multi-block?
That's the multi-block. Yeah. So, it's all these blocks combined together.
So, how were all three done so perfectly to match?
Registration. You'll hear that word
A
a
lot.
lot. At these times. Yes, there's different ways to line up the image. And we'll go through them.
Okay.
Traditional Japanese prints are usually multi-block. In puzzle piece, I don't have an example here. I'll bring one in. Basically, you cut up a block and put it together, and then ink them up separately, then bring them together. And Picasso did a little bit of that in combination with the reduction.
And it's called puzzle?
Puzzle piece or jigsaw, and it's basically what the name describes. You're cutting up the block, and then you ink them up, ink up the pieces separately, and then you bring them together on the press, and then print. Fun. I can bring in an example of
So for example, like say if someone cut out this, so
Yeah.
like this could be one color, and then if there was something around it, that would be another color?
Yep.
That way?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Someday.
Yeah, that'll do.
Okay.
So we'll be doing that. We'll be doing a little bit of dry point, which is an intaglio process, which is kind of the opposite of relief printing, where you scratch into a plate, and what you scratch is your image. And I'll print that, so we'll do that for a class. Just give you a taste of that. For that, we have a little press here. So this is a 3D printed press that's available online.
Wow.
Yep.
And it works? Like it's an actual press?
It's
or
an actual
no?
press and
Yeah.
it works. The newer models have a metal roller on top. This is all plastic. This was given to me by Dawn Rugel. She's a founding member of SK Printmakers, which I'm a member of. So Rugel, yeah. She does relief
I know
printing
Dawn,
on
yeah.
Dawn. She does relief printing on textiles, and she does stitching and stuff. So you might want to.
To the birds, yeah.
Yep. So Dawn's pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So doing that as well. We'll be doing Shinkale next week. Basically, we'll be printing on thin Japanese paper, and then basically gluing it onto a backing paper. So,
And we'll have something that beautiful.
absolutely.
Awesome. Was that one done on Shinkale?
That's one on Shinkale, and then the kind of more simpler example would be this. So you can see the color, this yellow color here. That's the Shinkale paper. This is the washi or the Japanese paper.
Oh.
So it's a fancy word for gluing thin paper down to a thicker piece of paper. But it looks really nice.
Yeah, it was so thin, I didn't even realize that
Mhm.
there was this real thing.
And the advantage of this paper is it really picks up detail really nicely. So that's why people like it, plus the color that you get from the print.
Yeah.
Thinner paper is nice because when you were printing by hand, because we'll be doing most of our printing by hand.
Right.
So, go from there. And to wrap up the class, I've done this twice now. Each class I've done, we do a suite. So nice thing about printmaking is it's very
What does that mean?
a suite, basically a print exchange.
Oh, okay.
So
Didn't know.
printmaking tends to be very communal. Most people don't have like a press or all the equipment and all the chemicals available to them, so they share that in the studio. So either at the university, Most major cities have a artist-run print center that you can go to and work. Saskatoon unfortunately doesn't anymore.
Yeah, we
used to in
yeah.
Boyd.
Mhm.
Then Michael moved. So
Yeah,
that's okay.
and then wasn't there something in the Tees and Pierce at one point?
Ink Slab.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a member of that too.
Yeah.
We disbanded. For some reason, it's not taking root in Saskatoon. There's one in Regina called Articulate Ink.
Oh,
So that's still around, but most major cities, Snap in Edmonton
mhm.
is one I'm familiar with. Martha Street Studio in Winnipeg would be another. So there's like a network of these artist-run studios that you can go and work. So there's always opportunities to do print exchanges and print competitions. Most prints are done on paper, so it's pretty cheap to ship.
Yeah.
And because they're multiples, you can send multiple images out. So it's kind of an international kind of community that you belong to when you become a printmaker. So for this class, let's print. Everyone did prints. So
Okay.
usually with a suite, you have the cover page, everyone's name, and where the print was, or the suite was kind of assembled,
Okay.
like so. And then I printed. So this is from.
Mm.
That's cool.
Mm. Oh.
Kathy. She's a computer programmer.
Oh my goodness, that's beautiful.
She wanted a break from the screen.
Mm. So like, did she have like a great photograph to work from, or also?
She worked from a sketch. She must maybe she started with a photograph, but.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I love this one. I
Janice?
saw her working on it in our group. I love it so much.
So again, there's like a wide variety of different things you can do with it.
Oh,
This is quite
yeah.
detailed. This is like beautiful and elegant. Very
Yeah.
simple lines, but both are really strong.
Yeah.
So-
I love the first one you showed very much.
Oh,
And the chicken.
absolutely.
Playful.
Little chickens.
Yeah.
That's
So
wonderful.
folk art
Whimsical.
looking. Yeah. So is it called sweet because it's so sweet?
Is it like
Oh, I
sweet,
love
S-U-I-T-E?
this one.
Oh, that's beautiful.
There's
Turns.
so
Yeah.
much layers to it.
Depth of
Yeah.
perception.
Really nice use of pattern.
Wow.
Yeah.
Woo.
Really
Mm.
nice.
Who's that?
That's Kathleen's.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Who's this last one? Nope.
The one
the
before.
previous
Before
one.
that.
Oh, that's Sharon's.
Before.
Sharon? I don't know.
Oh, Schoenfeld?
Schoenfeld, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's really nice.
That's really nice. Beautiful. I don't know if I've seen a print I didn't like though. Prints are
I know,
just
yeah,
beautiful.
right?
I
It's
just
like,
find
oh,
all prints
no,
look
this one's my
incredible. I don't know. Oh, that's really good too.
Oh, is that the
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
one kicking around there,
That's that little one. Yeah.
the character I called it because it was like, "Arr."
yeah.
Oh wow.
That's Larry's.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
if you're interested, we can do a suite and do a
I'm
print exchange.
interested.
For
Yeah.
sure, for sure. Absolutely.
It's nice because you take away something from that one.
Yeah.
So I have some more suites if you want to take a look at them. During the class. Yeah. All right, keep on talking for a little bit more until Jean tells me to stop. So I guess we'll start with the basics. and then we'll go from there. Any questions so far? Or? Concerns?
How long will we have to carve our block tonight?
Um,
Probably takes forever to do this.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent hours at home.
yeah, I'll let you finish up a quarter after and then we can start carving.
8:15?
7.
Or after 7? Okay, okay. Start carving and then when will we go to
We'll print, and then we'll print, I don't know, around 8 or.
Okay.
It'll go pretty fast. Like this first one, we're just gonna dive in.
Okay, so nothing too complicated tonight.
Yeah, so for tonight's class, I'll go through the basics. We'll start carving just to dive in and print something. Next week, I'll do a more kind of detailed look on printing, signing your prints, all that fun stuff, and then finish up with Shinkalei.
So next week, come with a plan. 'cause
Yeah.
I don't have a plan.
And if there's anything you want me to cover, let me know. If you see something on YouTube or reading a book or something like that, please let me know. And if I don't know how to do it, I'll research it and try it out before I bring it to class. Go from there. So in terms of materials, we've got 3 choices here. Lino is kind of the most common, so linoleum. This is battleship linoleum, so it comes in gray and brown. I don't think there's a difference as far as I know. I think maybe the gray's a little bit harder, but
Yeah, I just was at Art Placement yesterday and they had both.
Yeah.
And yeah, they thought maybe one was softer, but it was almost like what you said.
they're pretty
We weren't
close.
really sure if it was big.
So you want to cut on the smooth side here, and they're backed with burlap. So I brought some pieces for people to use tonight. Hues sells lino.
The lino?
For lino, you can use it as is, or you can back it with a backing board.
Okay.
For tonight, we're just going to use as is. The backing board comes in handy when you're doing color, because you want something that's more rigid, because you'll be printing that block several times. Registration, that word, lining things up, it can be more important.
How would you fix it to that?
I use contact cement.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's lino. There's different types of lino, I guess. There's that soft cut stuff. This is one I prefer. If you find it's a little bit hard to carve into, I do have a blow dryer. You can heat it up, or at home if you stick it in the oven for a little bit, take it out. You
Interesting.
get warming pads to use for
Plants?
plants.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard about low irons.
That's a great
Because
Irons
of my
work
sewing
too.
room.
Yep.
Yeah.
Irons work
But
fantastically.
maybe with like parchment first on it,
Yeah.
or can you not direct?
I would put something down, maybe even like newsprint or thin paper or something. So, nice thing about lino, it's a good place to start because you can warm it up. It becomes really easy to carve. There's no grain, so
No problem.
Once you've started carving, can you heat it, or will it
oh yeah,
affect what you've already started?
no. So it'll cool down eventually, and you'll probably have to reheat it unless you're using a pad or something. When I was a student, we had a hot plate, so everyone would gather around this giant hot plate, and we put our forearms there, and then eventually we got used to the temperature. Yeah. Test of strength or will or
I like the idea of the plant heat mat. That's
Heat mats,
like
yeah.
a good idea.
there's wood, so I have that available. So wood does have a grain. It has nice character to it though. When you print it, that grain shows up. You do have to work with the grain. So when you're carving against the grain, if your tool's not very sharp, it becomes quite hard, difficult to work with.
Yeah.
But I brought samples here. Hues doesn't have any wood, I think, for sale for carving, but I'll have some here if you want to try it out. I find most people stick with the lino, but this is an option. I like carving on wood. This is Baltic birch. You can get it at Windsor plywood. So Windsor plywood, not 51st? No. Yes. It's nice because it's relatively cheap. You can get like a 5x5 foot sheet for like, I don't know, $70 and cut it up. The grain is short, so it holds detail really well, but it's not too short and tight that it's harder to carve into. So if you have like a harder wood, like maple or something, a really tight grain, it's gonna be really, really hard to cut. But something like pine, which is looser, tends to splinter more. So you want to find kind of a nice happy medium. So Baltic birch is what I usually recommend. But you get really nice wood, you get like a nice basswood. There's cherry wood. There's different options, but they're more expensive and harder to find. Baltic birch.
I took a woodcut class with Jacob Wright, like Adam White.
Yep.
Right before the pandemic shut down. It was like 2 days before everything shut down, and yeah, I can't remember what he used though.
I think a big, thick.
It was quite young.
He does a lot. He's a woodworker as well, so he has lots of.
Oh, okay, lots of
Really
scraps.
fancy woods.
Yeah, it was definitely thicker
Yeah.
pieces. Yeah.
And then finally we have Sintra. So Sintra,
How do you spell that?
So Sin, Sintra.
Thank you.
So it's a plastic material. Sign shops use it for making signs. And if you drop by a sign shop and ask them for offcuts, they usually have
Lots of
bunch.
scrap.
lots of scrap that they're more than happy with give away. SK Printmakers did a Christmas card workshop at SkyUp on 33rd. So I dropped by my sign shop and I asked them if any scrap pieces. I gave them a bunch from the workshop.
Do you like it?
It's nice. It's kind of like a happy medium between lino and wood. It's a little more firmer than lino, but it doesn't have a grain.
Can we
So
pass one around?
sure.
Oh, thank you.
Is that the only way to get a hold of it, pretty much? Do you
No, you can buy sheets. You can go to a plastic supplier, like
But not at an art store.
art stores tend not to sell it. No, it's not like a traditional art. So those are the three main materials I'll be carving into.
Oh.
I feel like it should be a wall or something.
Yeah. I should have enough for everyone to try different materials, or I can leave a couple out and you can try carving into it. Decide which one you want to work with. But really, anything you can carve into and ink up, you can use. So you don't have to stick with these. Some people like using rougher pieces of wood, so get that character of that grain in the print. I know there's one artist who uses traffic pylons, the traffic cones.
Oh.
He'll cut them
Yeah.
and split them open and then carve into them. So all his prints are,
Are they all cone shaped?
yep, they're all cone shaped.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Signature trademark there.
So there's lots of different surfaces, but these are the three we'll be kind of working with. Next thing to talk about is tools. Cast these out. So we're using mostly gouges for carving. And you're welcome to borrow these tools and take them home with you for the duration of the class. I got a big bag of them, so if one's dull, we'll find another one. This is what we use at the university. So the brand name is Ninja. Hues also sells a set, so if you want to buy your own, that's an option. They're a pretty good introductory level set of tools. Usually with tools, what you pay for will affect the quality of them. So Lee Valley sells a nice set of tools for about $40 or $50. So if you really get into woodcutting, it's worth spending a little bit more to get good tools. I think this set at the university bookstore runs about $20.
Okay. Ninja?
And is that this one?
Yep,
At the
that's a
bookstore.
set. Yeah, Ninja. If I'm pronouncing that right.
Niji.
These are some of my tools.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That probably feels better in your hand.
Yeah,
Those
they're quite
squares.
nice.
Mhm.
So.
Now, are those made by you?
No, these I got from a store called McLean's.
Okay.
So go online. They sell everything relief printing related.
So is it like their store brand kind of thing?
Yeah, they have different levels of tools. This would be the highest brand. I got them for my birthday a few years ago.
Right.
But, so they're handcrafted in Japan.
More expensive than Lee Valley?
Yeah, but they're worth it.
It's
if you do,
worth it, yeah.
if you do
It's
lots
like
of them.
good paintbrushes, you know,
Yeah.
you have to, yeah.
It's a good investment if you're gonna do lots
Yeah,
of
which
them.
is really
And there's things like power tools, like Dremels. Probably not here because there'd be a lot of noise and dust, but grinders, power tools, so anything you can like mar the surface or carve into a surface. You can use.
That's okay.
But we're sticking with these tools, so
We have one over here.
How many came in that set from McLean's? Do you
I
know?
ordered 6.
6?
Yeah. get past these around too. These are nice because you can actually take the blade out completely and get them resharpened.
Can you find replacement blades here?
No, everything has to be,
It has to be specifically for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
they actually, they send them back to Japan to sharpen them because, so I sharpen them myself because it's,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Mhm. So for your tool sets, you'll probably be using the U gouges a lot. So they're a U-shaped cutting tool.
I have that speedball set, which I
Yep.
assume is fine.
That's the other one.
I got booms to use it now. Are they not that great, really?
They are. I just keep on forgetting to bring them. So the option would be the speedball set. They actually work quite well with lino, and sometimes they end up being sharper than these. So these ones have replaceable blades.
Oh, you got one.
I got one.
Yeah, I did see that. Did everyone see these?
Yep.
So the blades you can change out and use them. But same idea, using gouges and V-gouges and stuff like that. So that. The first thing we do is go to carve. You can draw directly onto your block with marker or pencil. Later in the class, I'll show you different ways to work with the surface. You can do a transfer onto your block using photocopies. So if you have a photographic image, you can photocopy it and then transfer it onto the block,
Oh,
which is quite nice.
that would be lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For tonight, we're just gonna draw and just keep it simple, but I'll show you how to do
We'll
that.
touch on that one night.
I also, if you want, you can do it tonight. Usually I get students to use Sumi ink to stain the surface of the block black so they can see what they're carving. So that's an option too if you want to try that out tonight, or just for tonight just carve and see what you get. I'll go through that as well. So it's different ways to transfer an image, or you can draw it directly onto the block.
And is it just S-U-M-I, Sumi?
Yeah, Sumi ink, or it's the India ink would be another option. So water soluble ink.
Right.
That works for the lino and the wood. It doesn't work for the Sintra because the Sintra is plastic. So I do have some here if you want to try that out, or you just want to carve tonight. That's fine too. When you're carving, when you're working on your images, keep in mind that your image is going to reverse. So it's going to flip. So if you have text, for example, you have to write the mirror image. So there's that card over there. If you look at the block,
Yeah.
you can see the text is backwards. So.
A lot of coffee before that one got started.
Yeah. So keep that in mind when you're working. But different ways of transferring your image makes it mirroring or reversing easier. So. So yeah, so you can carve out an image. Snail?
Aw.
I'm trying to, whenever I do a demo, I just do random marks, so now I'm trying to like choose something to do. So now it's always a snail or an owl.
Owls seem to be popular.
Yeah.
Lots of owls today.
Yep. When you're carving, you don't want to hold the block here. and then start carving because you can
Slice it off.
slice it home. So what I usually use is drawer liner. So the liner you put in your drawers. So I have a bunch here that you can use. And that just gives you a little bit of grip as you're carving. You can also get a bench hook. It's basically, and I don't have one here. Maybe we'll bring one next week. Basically, it's a piece of wood that's bigger than your block with a lip, so it catches onto the edge of your table. And then there's another piece of wood raised that catches the block and just holds it in place. So, whatever you need to do to keep your hands from there. But, yeah. So when you're carving, generally speaking, I use my dominant hand for the force, and then use my other hand to help guide it. So it's usually a two-hander thing. And you start carving.
And the depth of the carve is dependent on what you want to
No,
It's irrelevant,
it's kind of irrelevant.
Okay.
Whether you carve straight through the block or just enough, you'll still get the same amount of white.
Right.
Right.
So you can't really change that value.
That makes sense.
You want to make sure the lines are deep enough
Mhm.
that when you ink up, the lines don't fill up with ink. So I've had students, they'll flip their tool like this backwards, and they'll kind of do
Oh, yeah.
really nice cross hatching. It looks beautiful on the block, and then they ink it up in just black.
Can't see it.
So,
Too bad.
general rule of thumb: if you can catch it with your fingernail, it'll probably ink up or print properly. So, I guess I'll go through a few things. There's a V gouge. It's in the set. So a V gouge, basically the name says, is like it's shaped like this. I have to walk around and show people, but with the V gouge, if you don't use too much pressure, you're just using the point of the V, this part here, and they'll give you a nice thin line. If you use more pressure, then you're using more of the gouge, and it's getting deeper into the block, and that can widen the line. So within a line, you can make it deeper and thinner, depending on the pressure that you use. So. I can start here. So this is the V gouge. Basically, when you carve, later you get really nice thin lines.
So that one will print, that one thin.
Yep.
I want to see that rubber mat under there. It really, really makes a difference, eh? Like it'll hold it,
Well, yeah, when it's sleep.
because I saw it kind of, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you just make them.
Don't really
Like a
use just point, use less pressure, and you get a nice
piece
thin
of
line.
wood, and I just put it 2x2 and a 2x2.
Yeah.
If you go a little bit
And I
deeper,
actually
use a little more
kind of-
pressure.
Because I like going this way. So
Right.
it's a little bit.
Just to try this because the only other time in line I have is I hear
The painted stuff or.
Alright, so that's the V gouge. There's U gouges. You have different sizes of U gouges, and they're shaped like a U. And the same idea. Basically using your dominant hand for force, and the other hand to guide. And they come in different sizes, you can remove more of the material. With U gouge, you get more of a consistent cut versus the V gouge, where it ranges depending on how much force you use. The other two tools that come in the kit are a knife and a chisel. I don't tend to use them that much. The knife is kind of handy. If the knife is dull, you can use an X-Acto knife, but if you want to have a nice sharp clean edge, you can take the knife and score it carefully.
So what would this person have made these tiny birds with, do you think?
I guess a U gouge, combination U gouge and V gouge, tiny little cuts, tiny little tools. So with a knife you can trace out an edge, and then if you take a U gouge, or V gouge I guess, and you carve up against that line, then it'll pop off. So I made a line right here with my knife, and then if I take my U gouge and put it right into your face, and just kind of when it hits that line,
I see.
so
So you wouldn't have done the edge by just
you can.
gouging around?
Yeah.
But this would be cleaner, or? I
Just-
probably messed up and go right through.
It depends on
Low.
it's like some people use the knife, so okay, saw that. So I carved a line here with the knife.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
and
then-
carved into the line.
Yeah. So when
Yeah.
you carve against it, it pops off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can just use a V gouge, or you can use a knife. Like I said, the knife and the chisel aren't used as much as the gouges are. So. And the chisel, I guess you can remove a lot of material all at once. Or make little rough marks. I don't use it that much. Maybe other people do. When I do use it, I usually use it to remove lots of material all at once, especially if you have wood. If you go with the grain,
Maybe that's
and that's
more
probably
handy
just
for
more-
that.
Yeah. So those are the tools. Any questions? It's time to carve. Alright, if you guys want to take a break, I'll go through inking and printing briefly.
I don't want to take a
Can we
break.
carve while we're talking?
Or if you can carve and watch. I'll go through this next week as well, in more detail. But for tonight, so again, we're going to use Speedball Professional ink. So it's water soluble ink. It's oil based, but it washes out with soap and water. And we're going to apply the ink onto the surface of the block with a small roller or a brayer. And I have a bunch here that you can use. And I have some gloves, I'll get some more. So for the ink, I'm going to roll up on these pieces of plexiglass. Or use glass if you wanted to. And glass might be a little bit easier to clean, but I don't have to worry about sharp edges and such. Basically, take the ink out of the container with the palette knife. Whenever possible, try to skim from the surface of the can. We have tubes, which makes it a little bit better, I think. If you gouge the ink out, it tends to dry out, you get the skin. So, and then you basically put a ribbon of ink out, like a line of ink. Pull it up. Try not to get too much dirty. We have newsprint, so you can use newsprint for everything from proofing to putting down your dirty tools, not dirty up the tables. You'll be going through a lot of newsprint. It's just past few days at the university, people are finishing their projects, and there's like the recycling bins are like overflowing with like newsprint. So.
You don't use newsprint for your final print.
No, it's not archival, so over time it does yellow, get brittle. It prints beautifully though, usually.
Oh.
I find newsprint, unfortunately, it prints really nicely. Then you go in through good paper and it's like, okay. Yeah. So when you ink up, you want to kind of dip into that ribbon and then roll out, and then bring it back and lift the brayer up, and then the roller will kind of naturally roll and find a new spot. different directions. So I call this, I call it a palette of ink. Some printmakers call it a well, ink well. So either way. For your palette of ink, you don't want it too thick. So if it gets too thick, what will happen is you'll start filling in your fine detail.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes I'll have students who think they do one thick pass, they're ready to print and ready to go. All it does is fill in all your detail, and then you have to spend a lot of time cleaning your block. So it's better to do more passes with a thinner palette of ink than trying to do one big thick one. So, and it kind of makes this nice. It's nice and kind of velvety. It's got a nice surface to it. When it gets too thick, it's almost like an orange peel. It makes a really sticky noise when you roll it.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, you roll up your block. So I have Mylar, plastic sheets. I should have enough for everyone. If not, I'll get some more. You can put that underneath your block to keep everything clean. You basically ink up. So this is the disadvantage of the if you stain your block black, it's hard to see the ink. But the first time you ink up will take the most passes just because there's no ink on the block. So you go in different directions. Like so. So then my block is inked. Music's fantastic. If you want to, you can proof on newsprint. So your first one, it might be a little bit light because if it's the first time you're inking up your block, it might be a little inconsistent. So if you print on newsprint first to kind of build up your image, rather than to go onto your good paper and then waste a sheet of good paper, you can do that. I think I might just try the good paper out. So in terms of paper, there's different types of paper you can use. For tonight, I have Lynx cover paper. It's also called Cougar cover or Mayfair. It's basically a cardstock paper, so it's a little bit thicker than like loose leaf or printer paper. This is fine. It's cheap and it's good for first-time printmakers, relief printmakers. You can also use cotton rag paper. So these prints that are done here. It's thicker. So cotton rag is not wood pulp based, it's cotton based. It's archival, so it's acid free. And usually it prints really nicely. Such a good, nice quality paper. So different types of rag paper would be like Stonehenge would be your like cheapest rag paper. You get Somerset satin or BFK Reeves or Rives or Arches. So there's different types of rag paper, but they're all cotton based and they're all acid free and archival. The Lynx paper is not archival, so over time it will deteriorate, but there are buffers in there, so it will last a while. So difference is I think a sheet of this is like 70 sheets.
$1.20.
Right.
$1.20. This first sheet is Stonehenge is what,
$7.20, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Somerset goes up from there.
Yeah.
BFK. So if you're starting out, this is a good option. And try something like that. That's good too. And there's also washi paper. So it's a Japanese paper. It's thinner.
Washi?
Washi. Some people call it rice paper. Technically, it's not made from rice. It's kind of a slang weird term. So sometimes I'll call it rice paper, but generally I try to call it washi. So it's made from different plant fibers. So there's mulberry, gompi, and they get different levels of quality of the washi paper. Mulberry is pretty cheap, pretty nicely. I think there's Kitakata paper, which is really nice. Most washi paper will have a smooth side and a rough side. I usually print on the smooth side. So we use this for Shinkalei. You can also just print it and have it on its own. You don't have to glue it down. And again, the nice thing about this paper is it's thin, so if you're printing by hand, it takes less work. If you get a really thick rag paper, it's gonna take a lot of work
Yeah.
to print by hand anyways.
And why is that?
It's just thicker, so you
more
just more pressure.
Yeah.
So I have a few sheets of washi and I have some cardstock, so feel free to use those. I'm just gonna put this here so I don't put ink all over.
What was that print made with?
Like the block?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was a lino cut.
Ooh,
Big piece of line.
that was a lot of work.
Yeah. He was there the first year I started in university, so this print's like 20 years old now. And he had a lot of tattoos, so this is based on a tattoo design. Whew, yeah, 20 years. So for paper for tonight, we're just gonna eyeball it. You line it up. We'll go through registration. Over it again next week. So you place your paper down. You don't want to move it too much. Place it down like that. And then you have options for printing. But the idea is the same. You're applying pressure to the back of the paper, and then that pressure will transfer the ink from the block to the paper. So, nice thing about relief printing is you don't need too much pressure to print compared to something like etching or lithography, where you pretty much have to use a press. So, press kind of like this but bigger. But
May I ask a quick question about press?
yes,
I've seen some that just go heavy down
Yep.
and up again, and rolly ones.
Jean brought one that's on the shelf there.
That's
It's a
the
book
one I
press.
have.
Yep, that
So-
that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't use it that much in the class. I think I asked Jean to bring it in, and
Yeah.
we can set it up for next week. If
It
you want to
weighs
try
a
it.
ton.
It's very heavy. I think we need like a good table for it, but
That's exactly the same one.
and then
We
we
can
have
also use those.
that one too.
Yeah.
Yep. So we have some options, or you can try printing by hand. Nice thing about printing by hand is it's cheap. Bad thing about printing by hand is it takes more work. So if you're working small, it's not too bad. So by printing by hand, most basic tool, the wooden spoon. And basically, you just apply pressure. I usually put a piece of newsprint on top just to protect the back of my paper.
It doesn't look like you're pressing super hard.
If you look at my finger right now,
Okay.
it's white.
Oh, okay.
My fingernail. So yeah, there's a bit of pressure. This one's nice because it's smooth.
Do you prefer the spoon to like a Baron?
You know, the spoon's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah. So spoon's an option. You can use a Baron. I have one here. It's a plastic one.
Uh-huh.
So this is more of a traditional Japanese tool for printing. So this one's plastic. The more traditional ones are wrapped in bamboo. You can still buy them. They're really, really expensive. That company I told you about, McLean's, they sell the bamboo ones from Japan.
Oh, okay.
And
This
you
is-
own one.
I don't actually.
Oh, okay.
No. They sell a really nice one. It's the bottom part is made of ball bearings, and it prints really, really nice. It glides across. This one's plastic, and it actually works. This one I got from Etsy. But again, the same idea. You're just rubbing the back of the paper, applying pressure.
you get all that in there so fast? Wow.
I don't know.
Wow.
We'll see.
Somebody's
Yeah.
Anyway,
And the other option I have here is the bamboo baron. So these are bamboo toothpicks,
oh, that's neat.
and you get them from like a Asian supermarket store, food store. And they usually come in a case like this, ready to go. So what you do is you take the toothpicks out and put some sort of epoxy or glue in the bottom, and then put the toothpicks back in. So let that dry, and then you lightly sand the points so they're not so sharp, and then use it basically again the same way, like that. When I use the toothpick, the bamboo baron, I use a piece of mylar that's been oiled on one side to help it move it around.
And it just doesn't miss any spot.
big
No,
oil.
'cause
That's the
each
idea.
point delivers
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah.
So,
Push in there.
Didn't waste time.
I learned this from Nick Seminoff.
Yeah.
Who was a printmaker.
He used
Saskatoon.
He used those, or he came up with that idea?
No, he went to Japan and he visited a master printer studio, and this is what the master printer uses all the time.
Oh, cool.
So, and it works great for like flat, like large flat areas. The color of black. In theory. Yeah. So yeah, basically it's straightforward. You're applying a pressure to transfer the ink onto the paper. Okay, you have a press that does that. Pretty much anything would work. More pressure. I chose something with a lot of black, so you know, keep carving. I'll keep rubbing, and then we'll print something. I applied for a Nuit Blanche with SK Printmakers to do a steamroller printing
Oh, okay.
event. So
Oh, I remember.
basically, you have a steamroller, you put your block down on paper, and you run over it.
That's fun.
It is.
Would you already know a location and where you would do that, or not until they approve?
Not until I know, and then once we do know, we're gonna
Is
put a
this-
call out for people to bring their blocks and print.
Is a steamroller like a giant vehicle?
It's like an asphalt roller. Is the
Yeah.
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 Like on the road?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure I was picturing the right thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've done it a few
Anyone-
times now.
Anyone can bring their blocks down then?
Yeah, we'll
Well,
put a call out and
Yeah,
people
if
bring their
it's
blocks.
Nuit Blanche, it's like participatory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to bring your blocks, I'll send out the call for submissions. A bunch of people out. The only thing you can't do is you can't ride.
No. Darn.
In the past, let people drive it, but maybe Blanche is a little bit concerned with
Safe
safety.
enough.
It doesn't go that fast, but it's fun to ride.
Should like ink up some pothole covers and throw some fabric down or something. T-shirts, ink up some t-shirts. There's some nice grates. Grates?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Not bad. I mean, the top needs a little more work, but
Oh, wow, no, that turned out.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I really like the top.
Yeah.
Background. Was that carved or is that just the way the ink turned out?
this one here,
Yeah.
that's me not rubbing hard enough.
I
But,
like
you know,
it.
We can make that work.
And that'll never be reproduced exactly like that. Yeah.
That's fine.
I kind of like
No.
it. I love where you didn't do it right.
Perfect.
That's funny. Sweet.
Only first print. So ink needs some time to dry. That's why we have the clothesline up here. So you can let the ink dry overnight, probably, at least.
Do the clothespins before.
Got it. So is there any questions about inking and printing?
What if you have a lot of background, you just don't ink, that just doesn't get ink on it.
It's just gonna be all.
I do find if you have large areas of white, it's hard not to get little cut marks showing up. Like if you want a pristine white,
Yeah,
it's
or
really,
you'd have to plan a border maybe, that would help, the roller
Plan a
go right
border,
over
yeah.
it.
yeah, some people use scrap pieces of block on either side to kind of support
Okay.
the roller, or else they just really carve really deep.
So hard to do really pristine.
Yeah.
So how many prints would you, can you reuse that ink on your plexiglass?
You can, I'd probably add a little bit more, but yeah, you can reuse it, so. But yeah, you can go back to it and ink up again.
You'd always add a little bit.
Usually, yeah, again, you wanna make sure
Was
it's
that
not
your
too
question?
Yeah.
thick, but if you don't add enough, then it won't print.
Yeah, and then you ink your
Block again, so.
block again.
Yeah, so every time you wanna print, you have to ink up your block. Like I said, the first time you ink up your block will take the most passes, just because there's no ink, but there's still ink on the block even after you finish printing. So it should take fewer passes to ink up. And if you're good about it, you can kinda keep track of your rolls and keep consistent, or kinda just go with it. But, yeah, you just ink up again and keep on printing. And that's it. We're doing that for 8 weeks with different things.
That's it.
That's it. No.
You're the talking
What-
more. That's funny.
Whenever you're ready, I can give you hand printing. If you want to take a break, there's other suites you can look at or print.
Go for it.